Hi, and welcome to Be Your Own Best Coach Conversations, where you can learn to accelerate your career with self leadership skills and habits. I'm Glen Lubbert, one of the co founders of Be Your Own Best Coach, a 5-week group coaching program. In this special episode, I share an excerpt from one of our Be Your Own Best Coach guest contributors, part of a series of guest interviews within the program. Let's take a listen. Our distinguished guest today is Steve Adams. Steve is the CEO of Tiger Performance Institute. He's a former corporate banker and veteran entrepreneur. His passion lies in building and scaling organizations through disciplined execution, direct response marketing, and culture creation that leads to extraordinary client experiences. Steve grew up in Lansing, Michigan as the son of an auto worker. He went on to university and became the first college graduate actually, and MBA in his family. He's the author of Passionate Entrepreneur and most recently Unleashing the Peak Performer Within You. Steve and his team grew his first venture to over 800 employees in 6 states with revenues over $100 million, and he wants to help other entrepreneurs grow in their performance. He's also a colleague in Flow Training, both of us being members of the Flow Research Collective. Welcome, Steve, and thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm excited to be with you.
So today we're going to talk about flow and peak performance. Let's start off talking about how you came to write your new book, Unleash the Peak Performer Within You. Tell us a little bit about your journey to writing the book and the evolution of the Tiger Performance Institute. Yeah.
A little bit of it is out of my own story. And I think we share a common story where my last company, I did a lot of things right. It was very successful. I was a big believer in positive psychology and using that, having a growth mindset and all those things to be able to perform really well. But I ignored my physiology and I traveled over 100 nights a year for a decade and I wrecked my body, literally. I suffered burnout. And so I went to my partners and sold my interest to them. And I took 9 months to almost a year off to rebuild and recover. And out of that experience and learning what I learned, and I'd been a student of peak performance for 2 decades prior. So it wasn't like I just woke up and started reading this stuff. I really felt compelled to start a company that would help entrepreneurs and executives not have the same kind of experience I had. And then I knew at that point that if I really wanted to share this message and work with people, I needed to write a book about it. And so I did a deep dive into the research world, and that's how I found my way to the Flow Research Collective, where we met, because they're kind of the hub worldwide for aggregating good research, and so that was really the seedbed for the book. And then I came back home after being in Seattle at the conference that you and I were at, and using the principles of flow, I was actually able to write the book in only 8 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So it was a kind of a meta thing. You were in flow to write the book.
Absolutely. Well, in all honesty, it was easier because the pandemic hit. We were all locked down, and I don't want to suggest that the book only took 8 weeks. I had to do 8 weeks of research prior and get it all aggregated. But when I actually sat down, timed my time to write every day, I was able to do that. A 217-page book in just 8 weeks.
You talk about your the 100 days on the road. I mean, you don't actually understand how that compounds on itself until it's too late.
That's a great comment, Glenn. Yeah. Did you want to finish? Yeah, keep going.
That's really. I was just when we were saying that really resonated with me, obviously, because it's a similar experience, and that's I guess that underlies one of the key messages you have.
Well, yeah, and you're right, because that every morning that you wake up off your sleep cycle, and your eating patterns are changed, and then I was changing time zones almost every trip, and so your circadian rhythm gets thrown off, and then there's the hours are longer because you don't have the structure of home and the routines. And so I would work all day long going through our stores, and then have a later dinner and then work in my hotel room. And and it was basically every other week, all year long, I was going to the airport and going somewhere. And so I could never get in any kind of routine, and it destroyed my sleep. And I ended up with a low grade form of brain fog and fatigue that just kind of grinded on.
That sounds really harsh.
It was.
And
the other thing too, Glenn, I'll just add real quick, and then it compounds to the point where one day you just notice you're numb, like you have nothing in the tank. You don't really recognize it until it hits you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it. I mentioned I had a similar experience with running my company, and then you're able to go until you're not. It comes quickly. Quickly. In the book, you outline how both psychology and physiology together are needed to consistently perform at your highest level. Can you say more about how both the psychology and the physiology impact performance and how they work together?
Absolutely. I'm not going to talk about psychology too long because there's a million people out there talking about a growth mindset, and
which is what we do in our course too.
Locus of control and having grit and having belief, and those are the things I touch on because they're very important. You can't ignore those. Okay, if you play the victim card, you're never going to do anything in life. But if you're going to get, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. If you're going to get the full benefit and the full impact of all of your good planning and your good psychology, you need to optimize your physiology because they work together. It's like you can think all these thoughts, but if your body won't come with you and won't provide you the energy, you can't execute on those visions. And so, the two areas that I really want to drive home today, because in my book, I've got 8 elite health habits that you should do that make up the elite physiology of a peak performer. But the two that I think that would hit hard and resonate with your audience would be, number one, sleep is really getting away from this "I'll sleep when I'm dead" thinking, or taking away from your sleep whenever you got to get more done. Sleep is vital to the replenishment of our brain and our entire body. So that would be one area. And then the second one is managing the stress response. Where animals are, when a zebra gets chased by a lion, it goes into fright and then run, fright and run away. And then as soon as that's over, they go right into recovery. They don't think about it. People are different. We can ruminate about the past and we can anticipate things coming up, and we can put ourselves in the same place in terms of activating our HPA axis and having cortisol and adrenaline flowing through our veins in a way that doesn't serve us well. And for most of us living in this always on, always available, tech saturated world that's uber competitive, we are activating that stress response chronically, and we don't even realize it. And when you are, and you compound that with poor sleep, you're really setting yourself up for chronic disease and for poor performance. And so those are two areas we really attack. And then the other thing that you and I both learned through the Flow Research Collective is the importance of oscillation through your day, meaning you have periods of intense work and then you have periods of rest and recovery, and you need to build that within the day. And so, when you can, and really the big idea of my book is that it's a 3-legged stool. We want to integrate optimized physiology with optimized psychology with optimized daily life design. And, your work environment, cognitive load, all these different things that you need to manage if you're actually going to get into a flow state and work that way. And I try to demystify flow. All it is I'm working for an hour to 3 hours, super focused without distraction. And I can maintain that focus for that long amount of time on a very important set of priorities. And when you can do that, more than once or twice a month, which is kind of the average for the world, and you can do it every day, you've got a massive competitive advantage at that point. But you and I both know to be in flow, it's expensive biologically, so you better have good physiology.
Yeah, and that's where the recovery comes in, and then managing the stress response. And what are some of the techniques
Sure.
that you use for reducing that stress response?
Yep. So the primary one that everybody knows about is diaphragmatic breathing. What we like to do in our company with our clients, though, is utilize a biofeedback device for heart rate variability training and heart coherence. So HRV is a measurement, coherence is a state. And
HRV being heart rate variability.
yes, and that's the measurement, which is, when we breathe in, our heart rate accelerates. When we breathe out, our heart rate decelerates. And the difference between the bottom and the top, beat to beat, is what the definition of HRV is, okay? And what you want to do is you can't just breathe. You actually have to get biofeedback and see it on the device that, oh, I'm in that coherent state now. Now I'm optimizing my HRV. That it's like a trainer. It trains you to know what it feels like. So then, yeah, eventually you don't need the device. You can just do it on your own. So that's the primary way, Glenn. And the thing about HRV is the higher the higher your HRV is, the more flexible your heart is, the more resilient you are to what comes at you. If you have low HRV, something the size of an anthill is going to trip you up. You won't be resilient. And so that's the big idea. And so breath work is one big way, but it's not just that. It's learning how to operate out of a sense of gratitude. That actually improves our HRV. Good sleep, good fitness, good hydration, and good nutrition. All of it integrates and improves your HRV. And I'll just give you an example. The standard measure is MS, and we use an Oura ring to measure it. When I first started, yeah, me too. When I first started training for half marathons a year ago, my HRV was only 12 MS, which is really bad. And that reflected 30 years of tons of stress. Now mine is routinely between mid 30s and low 50s. And so the number really isn't important because everybody's different based on their age and their level of fitness. What's important is the trend line over time. So I gave you a little bit more than you asked for in that answer, but
no, that was fantastic. And one of the things I hear about the resilience part was interesting is that's where you connect both the psychology and the physiology there for that resilience, is because you have to have the gratitude and you have to have the heart rate, very strong heart rate variability to have that resilience.
And where it shows up, Glenn, is in little things. I'll give you an example. We're opening a medical clinic in Seattle in January, and 3 days ago, I got a cryptic email from my primary investor in that, where it looked like they were pulling out. Okay. And those are the kind of things that will trip you up. And if I had really poor HRV and wasn't optimizing my physiology, and I didn't know how to manage stress, that could have taken me down a path that was destructive and not productive. I would have freaked out, not been able to handle it. But I saw it and I went, you know what, I'm going to stop. And I breathed, and I already have a baseline of strong HRV from 4 years of doing this. But I was able to stay completely calm, stay on track with my work, get him on the phone. We worked it out. There was no issue. And that's like a mini example of, if you've got poor HRV, you won't have the resilience to deal with what the business world throws at you. And as well as I do, something's going wrong every day. It's never easy.
Yeah. This is a tough job to have to do this kind of work.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I'm finished. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, you started to talk about flow, and so I want to ask you a little bit more about how flow is connected to peak performance, and how can someone get into flow more consistently?
Yep. Really good question, and it's a big one. So one of the things that I like that Stephen Kotler says is, the more flow you get, the more flow you get. So
And Stephen
So,
Kotler is Flow Research Collective.
yeah, and
Head of Flow
author
Research
of
Collective.
several
Yeah.
books. Yep. I like to start with the simple proposition of how can I get one of our clients to sit still without distraction for 90 minutes and work on something very important. Okay, that's the ultimate test. Like, if you can't do that, then you're getting no flow in your life, because that's what flow is. It's not mystical in reality. It's, can I sit and do something without interruption for that long? And if I can, what's going to happen is the benefits are enormous. The statistics are 500% more productive, learn 490% faster, you're 430% more creative, 230% more motivated. Though that's the benefit. So if that's the end goal, we got to work backwards and look at, okay, we know from flow that there's a cycle to it. There's a struggle phase. And people that are more advanced in their career and have a greater baseline of expertise are going to get more flow than someone who's brand new in a career, because for them, they're going to be in a multi-year struggle phase. Okay. Now they can still get focused time, but they might not get the same benefit like you and I would get with the level of experience we have. So, and then we also know about flow is you need to have breaks where you do have a pattern interrupt. And this is where, if you think about what we said earlier, if you oscillate during the day, your effort, and you go on walks or you meditate, you're naturally building those breakthrough moments into your day. And then you can, when you get out of that recovery and you go into a focus period of time, you can go right into flow.